Hi, I'm Scott Wrighton. I serve as Decatur's City Manager, and every week we bring you a little bit more new information or updated information about what's going on with your city government. At the last City Council meeting, the Mayor and City Council had several items on their agenda that really have to do with energy efficiency. That's a particularly important topic right now because Ameren rates are going up at a significant rate at percentage increases that far exceed an already elevated rate of inflation. So the cost of power is a concern to all of us, not only in your households, but also with the city of Decatur, because we spend well over $1 million a year just in paying for electric power. That number continues to go up. But beyond just covering our electric costs historically and with the normal operations we have, there's other ways that we can be more creative and I think innovative about how we reduce our energy costs and do so in ways that take advantage of new technologies. One of the programs that Ameren offers to help businesses, including local governments, to reduce their energy costs is one that provides for a substantial subsidy when we replace major appliances, furnaces, water heaters, and so forth in our buildings, taking out old energy inefficient units and replacing them with ones that are more efficient. Ameren does this because they are required to do it by the Illinois Commerce Commission that approves their rate increases. In order to get periodic rate increases, they have to also pledge to the Illinois Commerce Commission and the people of the state of Illinois that they will do more to make electric appliances and lighting and all sorts of things more energy efficient, and so they provide this subsidy program for that purpose. So one of the actions that the Mayor and Council took at their last meeting was to approve an agreement that enables us to replace a large number of these appliances in some of our older buildings at a cost that is well over 90% potentially with 90% reimbursement from Ameren rather. So there's not another savings for the taxpayer in our budget because it reduces our cost of energy, plus they're subsidizing a capital replacement that needed to happen anyway. One of the steps in energy efficiency that the council took that got a little bit more publicity on WAND and some of the other media sources has to do with an improvement we plan to do with the Civic Center parking lot. To the south of the Decatur Civic Center is a large parking lot between the building and Williams Street. And what we plan to do is cover portions of the parking lot, basically the parking stalls, with canopies tilted, and then on the top will be solar panels. And then all the electricity that these different solar panels collect will be used to provide power to the Civic Center, which is a large user of electricity in part because of the costs necessary to maintain an ice rink there for several months of the year. So by reducing the operating costs of the Civic Center, that'll become more efficient, and one of the other benefits is that it'll provide a little bit of protected parking as well. Instead of the sun beating on cars all day long or snowfall on cars, there'll be a little bit of protection for the cars that are in the parking lot. One of the other benefits of this program is that the cost of the installation is borne by the contractor who puts it in, and that he gets paid back by the energy savings. So there's not an actual financial outlay by the city of Decatur, which is another positive aspect of the project. These arrangements reflect incentives that the state and federal governments have enacted to help local governments get into these programs without a lot of capital outlay, but still benefit from the energy savings. So these are some of the things, some of the steps that the Mayor and Council are taking to be energy efficient, to be innovative in these activities, to be greener, and that you can expect that there'll be more to come. I want to shift now and talk a little bit about some transportation projects. Of course, the city of Decatur puts millions of dollars every year into its street program. We have funds that we receive from the state motor fuel tax every year, and we also have a local motor fuel tax as well, generated from a 5-cent charge on gasoline sold in the city of Decatur. Both of those, plus some other money from the general fund, collectively go into the City of Decatur's annual street program, where we are improving streets, putting new concrete streets, or providing asphalt overlays of streets, or whatever it is that the different streets in the city need. Our Public Works Department is constantly maintaining an index and an inventory of the condition of our streets so that we know from one year to the next which streets need repair the most. And you can take a look at not only the current plan of street planned street improvements, but also those going out several years into the future in the capital improvement plan that is available on the city's website. But I want to highlight a couple of projects, particularly because they're more high visibility and they're actually being managed by the Illinois Department of Transportation. There are local streets in Decatur, meaning that the city of Decatur has control over them, and there are state routes, which for all intents and purposes are also streets in the city of Decatur, but they are owned and controlled, and the maintenance is managed by the Illinois Department of Transportation, like El Dorado and north and southbound 51 and 22nd Street and Pershing and Lakeshore Drive and Fairview. For example, 51 is both north and southbound, is a state route that for all of its distance through the city of Decatur, except for one segment downtown, is entirely under the control of the state of Illinois. The state of Illinois is coming to the conclusion of a project they were working on 51 between Pershing and the I-72 interchange. The project involved taking out sections of the base that had failed, or cracks that had separated, or problems in the sub-base that needed to be repaired before they could do an overlay. It also included doing a lot of curb and gutter replacements, especially on the medians, also along the sides where the requirement now is to upgrade the ADA ramps. So all of that has to happen first, and then towards the end, then when they've done all that subsurface work, then they'll put an asphalt overlay, and you've seen that happening in recent days on that section of North 51. A similar project is just now getting started on the south part of 51 from Cleveland Street. That's about where Wade's Cleaners is as you head south before you go over the dam and the bridge over the lake. So from about Cleveland Street all the way south out of the city to Elwyn. And that improvement of Highway 51 will also be done in a very similar way as that north section between I-72 and Pershing, where they'll spend weeks and weeks repairing the subbase, fixing cracks, tearing out sections, doing pothole replacement, curbs and gutters and so forth. And then when all of that is done, then they'll be able to do the asphalt overlay. So in a similar fashion, what you saw in the north, there'll be lane closures, first on the right, then on the left. And while they're doing all that, the only portion that's controlled by the city is from El Dorado south to Cleveland. So if you were paying attention to all those sections, you know that the piece that's left is the piece between El Dorado and Pershing. And that's the piece where the city of Decatur has petitioned successfully, finally, but it took several years, for the state to fundamentally change the design, to bring in the lanes, to add an off-road hike-bike trail for pedestrian safety, and to make other streetscape improvements so that the appearance of that streetscape as it goes through those neighborhoods not only looks much better, but also helps the city out in its redevelopment of those adjoining parcels. Because the project to redesign 51 is taking so much longer, in part because of the way that the DOT delayed it, they have come to understand that they have to make repairs to this street so that it's not such a rough surface, especially on southbound 51. Those repairs will be made by the state in the spring of 23. They'll be letting them for a bidding here in the fall, but the actual work won't begin until the spring. The state completed earlier this year improvements on 22nd Street, north of the Staley Viaduct, the 22nd Street Viaduct. They also are planning for the spring to do two other improvements that will be of interest to drivers. They'll be doing a similar sort of improvement as you saw north of Pershing on West El Dorado Street from Illinois 48 intersection east to Church Street in downtown Decatur. So that's a lot. That doesn't cover the entire street program of the city, but I'll cover some additional projects in weekly updates to come. So stay tuned. Thanks for tuning in.